What? What? What's that you say, mainstream news? The experimental vaccines they whipped up in a couple of months that had limited trials, absolutely zero long-term studies, and got pushed into the arms of the entire global population. This stuff is everywhere. Everywhere. This stuff is apparently having a few problems. Wow. I'm shocked. I'm totally shocked. Who would have believed it? Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have seen this coming? It's not possible. The experts said it would be safe, effective, 98% efficacy. Remember that? 98%. Yay! 98%. Yay! What does that mean? It doesn't matter. 98%. Yay! Get this shot. That's super effective. That works so great. But it's not gonna stop you from getting COVID necessarily. And you'll have to go back to socially distanced mask wearing, but it's a small price to pay to stay healthy, right? I'd like to say the chickens are coming home to roost, but they're not. Come on. We know better by now. Okay, this headline, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything that the mainstream news, the mainstreamers, if you will, have finally started to talk about the issues around this vax. This is not a big deal. Truly, it's not. It really isn't, okay? The stories have been around for months. Months! This is no different than the stories we were covering late last year about the Bell's palsy and all the other shit that was going sideways with the vaccine trials. It's no different from any of that. Even from the stuff earlier than from this year with old folks in Norway and Germany. They were dropping like flies. No one gave a shit about them. They were dying. Just dead. Forget about side effects. Those people are dead. Based off of the experimental cocktails that are going on. There were headlines then and there are headlines now, so this won't change anything. The vaccine passports are still coming. They're gonna restrict your movement unless you play medical Russian roulette. Make no mistake about that, all of that stuff is still gonna happen. This has absolutely no effect on any of that. They don't know why it's going sideways for some people, but that's not gonna stop them from forcing this on everyone. The freaky science is only gonna get freakier, and we know that. And I'll save the craziest sci-fi story for last, but for right now, it's full steam ahead with this stuff. The CDC, they're gonna come out with little, little caution flags, if you will. It's more than what they were saying a month ago when they were saying this just doesn't happen, and if for these people who just dropped dead, it's purely coincidental. Like, that is completely, they've swept aside that narrative to say, okay, maybe there's some issues here, and now we need to pause it, okay? But this is no different than the ongoing tracking we've been doing forever. The National Vaccine Information Center has been doing what we've been looking at for months, just tracking the worst case scenarios. This is people who've died. This is essentially the thing that got the first channel banned off of YouTube. Right now, we stand at 2,342 suspected COVID-19 vaccine-related deaths. That means they got this thing, and shortly after they died. And the biggest group of them are somewhere within the 75 age bracket, which is also the people who are most susceptible to COVID, ironically. So they started rolling this stuff out during Christmas. They've already racked up possibly 2,342 people. And that's where we're at with this. And most of these will get swept aside. If you do happen to stumble across a story, they'll say, well, maybe 2 people here, maybe 3 people, maybe this, maybe 1 person out of, everyone has the most minimalist number possible is what you'll find from your mainstream news. But these folks who don't get paid to talk, you don't see any ads on this site, do you? I don't. So this is unvarnished, unwashed, unfiltered, and they say the number, at least in the United States, is closer to 2,300. Lord knows what it is around the world. We will never know. Never. But the mainstreamers are starting to acknowledge something. Ever so slightly. they've got these experts now just saying that they're gonna pause, and they're using words like pause, to give them time to do a little bit of research. Now you want to do the research? After this thing is getting pumped into people's arms for the last 4 months? Now you want to pause. Now you want to stop and smell coffee. Now you want to start to really take in the consequences of what this medication actually does. These are the people who reacted to it immediately. Not the ones who could react to it later on. Like if you drop dead a month after your shot, it's not gonna get blamed on the shot. It's just not gonna happen. If you drop dead a few minutes after getting your shot, they may have to acknowledge it a little bit. But that's kind of where they're at right now. People who are having severe reactions upon receiving the shot, not days or weeks later, right then and there. It has to happen right then and there when you're at the facility, pretty much. The drive-through or whatever, right? You can even get this stuff at your local Walmart, your grocery store. If you pass out when you're right there, you're good. If you get into your car and you start driving home and then you pass out, you probably blame it on, like, you know, the weather or road rage or some other shit. So it's got to happen right then and there. And it is happening right then and there. So it makes you think, like, for all the people that are reacting to it on the spot, like all the people in Colorado last week where they had to shut down an entire facility because of how many people out there were having bad reactions. Like, for all of those, think of how many more there are who just have a very delayed reaction to this stuff. But they have to keep putting a positive light on things. And they keep calling it a pause. And now they're going to use words like, you know, just due diligence, precautionary measures, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, what's causing this latest pause, if we will, is the same shit that was happening in Europe last month when we talked about the reckoning. And that's blood clots. These vaccines have an odd tendency of producing blood clots. I find it odd that both Johnson & Johnson and the shit out in Europe, AstraZeneca, that both of these that are supposedly from completely separate companies and they don't interact with each other and they're not really trading information and all this stuff, but they just happen to suffer from the same side effects. This is, you know, it's purely coincidental. It is what it is. Yeah, whatever. So 2 out of the big 4 are getting washed right now with bad PR. But all that means is that it's going to open up the lanes for the other 2. That means Pfizer get to step on up and corner the market, if you will. As do Moderna. I haven't heard shit about Moderna. And, like, I hear a lot of stuff about Pfizer. I don't know what Moderna's doing. But them 2, they get to take over the market now. And the J&J and the AstraZenecas of the world, they're just going to kind of like just move them to the side. Now they're part of the B team. You want to get on the A team, you get yourself some Pfizer, you get yourself some Moderna, but don't mess with the B team too much. You're going to see these guys just slowly get brushed off to the side until they pony up some more dough, and then, you know, the mainstream news will pick it up. Oh, it's perfectly safe now. They fixed all the kinks. It's all fine. What about those people who died? Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just part of science, you know. We got, you know, all those deaths from the vaccine, all those side effects, it helped us make it better. Their sacrifice was not in vain. I salute you, soldier of war. Same propaganda nonsense they use on the military, they get to use on the general population now. But the spin is getting spinnier. Getting way spinnier. But at least they have to spin now. I guess that's the good news. When the old folks were dying out in Norway and Germany at the very start of the year, it was purely coincidental. It's not alarming. That was a headline, not alarming. Well, they're alarmed now, at least a little. Alarmed enough to pause this money printing operation. And it is a money printing operation, you know. Biggest cash giveaway you've ever seen. Countries shelling out billions upon billions, and it's now in the trillions, to get one of the major vaxes out there. And we haven't even talked about the folks in Russia and China and whatnot. So it's a new industry, out of thin air. Do you know how fucked up things have to be before they make a move like this one? This move right here is going to seriously damage their reputation and their stock price, you would think. You would think. You know, and your reputation and stock price are about the only two things they value above all others. Well above patience, that's for damn sure. Well above patience. So if they're pausing and they're losing all this money and taking a reputational hit, you better believe it's more than just a handful of cases. Just a handful of them went sideways. No way. It was a ton. They're having a hard time hiding it, which is why it's in the mainstreamers right now. And it's starting to hit their bottom line. The EU Commission has said that both AstraZeneca and J&J will not have their contracts renewed once they expire. Because that's what happened. They signed contracts. Forget about, this is about saving lives, saving lives, saving lives. Bullshit! You don't sign contracts to save lives. Okay? You save lives because it's the right thing to do. These people have contracts. There are intellectual property issues at stake here, And a good chunk of the EU are like, no. Your PR is way too shitty. We can't even give this stuff away. It is not worth the investment. Goodbye. We're gonna keep our contracts with the other two until they fuck up or others come up. And this is all temporary because, once these folks grease the right palms, it's gonna come back. And they'll sign new contracts because that's how this stuff works. Their $1 trillion operation is falling flat on its face right at the starting pistol. This is like just after the first quarter of 2021. We're now in the new second quarter. This vaccine started in the first quarter, and it's already going sideways. We haven't even gotten to whether this shit actually works. That's gonna be tomorrow's bomb. Today's bomb is that this shit is lethal to some people. Which people, you ask? They don't have a clue. But hey, head on down to your local Walmart, your neighborhood park, and get some new vaccine recruit who doesn't know shit about needles to stick you with this thing. You look around the local news, they're asking people, hey, you want to help administer vaccines? You want to help administer testing? Well, come on down. We'll show you how. Do it for grandma and science. All the old nursery rhymes and hymns from 2020. Keep singing those. It's going great, fuckers. It's going absolutely fantastic. No trouble at all. No trouble whatsoever. But the spin's gotten so bad that they're passing out during their press conferences. The spin is making them dizzy. Check this out. This is from Denmark, who their drug regulators got together at a press conference to announce that they were going to be pausing this AstraZeneca. This AstraZeneca that's not going to have their contract renewed. They're just out here to just announce that they're going to be pausing it. And this is the shit that happened. Run down. Oh, she is out cold, man. She hit her head pretty good, too. Okay, lie her on the side. Okay. Good thing she hadn't just taken the vaccine. That's what's going on. These are the experts now. Remember when the nurse got her shot late last year and then she passed out? And we haven't heard a peep from her since. And we don't even know where she went to. Is she alive? What, Oh, but this is, what's her name? Soren Brostrom. Or no. So he's the guy doing the announcement. And then Tanya Erickson is the one who passed out. But this is how bad the PR is going. These folks are just blacking out. They're just blacking out. But more and more, they're starting to have to acknowledge that there are issues. So much so that this headline that you've got here from USA Today. Blood clots and COVID-19 vaccines, how scientists are starting. They're not starting. They've known this shit forever. Hell, I knew this stuff just by looking at some of the news articles from 2020. This has been going on forever. But they're talking about a rare side effect, Just these two, though. Just these two. Just keep the focus on the two. Don't focus on the wider picture, because I assure you there's shit going on with all of them. But for right now, these are the two they put their crosshairs. The sacrificial lambs, if you will. And they're saying that this is a murky picture. See that? A murky picture. Murky. Like the swamp this stuff crawled out of. Apparently it's murky to be shocked by experimental drugs administered to the entire global population. That's murky. Okay? When that stuff goes sideways, that's murky. The only nice thing that I can say about these people is that at least they have a talent for understatement. I will give them that. Tip of the hat to you. Murky picture and all. And they're now acknowledging that it's for women, primarily, between the ages of 18 to 48. Like, some of the lowest risk from COVID groups are the highest impacted by vaccine side effects. And it keeps just, this is not new. Anybody who's been following this remotely knows that this is not new. It was in smaller publications back then, and even some of their publications, they're pretending. They keep doing this thing like it's one of those those cartoon shows from the 90s or something, where every episode it's like all the stuff that happened before just went away and it just started up again. This resets after every episode. After every episode, the character who was like getting eaten by sharks or something in the previous episode is a new episode and they're up to a new adventure. That's what's going on here. Like, you're supposed to forget that the USA Today were already talking about some of these negative side effects like a month ago. Now they're trying to make it sound like it's brand new. It's brand new. This hasn't happened yet. Wow, this is brand new. It's not brand new. None of this is brand new. None of this shit is new. They're just having to revamp the story and use different words and use different phrases every single time. And it's not just the primo Western capitalist shit that's going sideways, okay? The communists can't get their house in order either. Their shit just doesn't work, and they're admitting it up front, unlike the folks in the West. Folks in the West are like, their shit works, it's not our fault it's killing a few people. The communists, the Chinese, they're the ones who are saying, all right, maybe this stuff doesn't work. Yeah. Call me crazy, but it beats the other stuff that's killing people. Okay, you can take the communist shit that doesn't work if you're gonna be forced to take one of these things. Okay, you can take the communist shit that doesn't work, or you can take the capitalist shit that does work and may kill you, because the capitalist shit's been unraveling from the jump in terms of effectiveness. But Chinese folks, they say their stuff has a low effectiveness. Okay. That's where they're at right now. It just doesn't work too good. And once they start rolling out these vaccine passports, you gotta wonder if your passport's gonna have to call out which shot you got. Because, this is gonna turn into some regional fuck you, no, fuck you right back type of thing. Oh, you got the Chinese vax on your vax passport. That means that you can visit these countries, but you can't visit these countries. But you got the Western one, so that means you can visit some of these countries, but not some of these countries. So you might have to find yourself collecting these things like tattoos or stamps on your passport. So you go to China, you get their shot. You go to Russia, you get their shot. You go up to Britain, you get their shot. Depending on which part of the world you're in, your vaccine passport. If you're a global traveler who wants to see the whole world, you're gonna have to get a shot from every one of them. Because now that the Chinese have admitted that their stuff has a low effectiveness and these vaccine passes roll out, that the folks from China are not going to be allowed into North America until they get the North American vaccine. That's how the money train keeps going. That's how the money train will always keep going. It's always about the money. Every single time it always boils down to the money. So at least they're talking about how their stuff is not effective. The Western folks, they won't admit it yet. But there's mounting evidence that the Western shots, your Pfizers, your Modernas, your all of that stuff, there's mounting evidence that stuff just doesn't work. Case in point, there were 246 fully, emphasis on the word fully, vaccinated Michiganders. Okay, it's Governor Whitmer's territory. She's the one getting people to go out and get this stuff, or she's gonna lock them up again, and then there's gonna be some sort of plot to kidnap her and try her for treason and execute her. A bunch of folks just talking on a phone call, and then somehow they're gonna end up spending the rest of their lives in jail because they talk shit on a phone call. That Michigan that has been on the forefront of COVID propaganda that have essentially rolled out some of the strongest vaccine campaigns in the entire country. And they just isolated one little town or one little area, looked at 246 people who got it after they've been fully vaccinated. 3 of them died. All right? 3. Those are the ones we know about. 3 people who thought their COVID troubles were behind them. And this happened. So, did they get the shot and then run into COVID during their day-to-day lives? Or did the shot give them COVID in the first place? Like, how long ago? Like with most stories, it's going to be pretty vague, okay? And, you know, they're going to try to minimize it as always. They're going to say it was 0.0001% of the people who actually got vaccinated who died of COVID, which is probably on a whole, the population of people who just catch COVID, vaccine or no vaccine, and die from it. Because we know it's like 1% or less than 1%, depending on which age group you're in. So they're now starting to roll in people's natural immunity into giving the vaccine credit, you know? The vaccine is going to prevent you from getting severely ill and dying, except in a handful of cases. COVID, your natural immunity, is going to prevent you from getting severe cases and dying, except for a small minority. And so now you're just going to take people with their natural immunity, roll it up to the vaccine, and give credit to the vaccine. It doesn't work both ways, though. But did these people die from COVID or from the vaccine? We will never know. Never know. We'll never find out. It's simple as that. But back to the communists real quick here. Because their thing is so ineffective, because their thing has such a low efficacy, apparently, they're thinking about mixing up their vaccines, okay? This is just to give you a glimpse of where it's going to go once they start admitting, at least over here, that the vaccines aren't as effective as they claim them to be. So they're gonna mix them up like cocktails. It's like a drink mixer at a frat house party. One shot gets you drunk. Mix them all up and get super fucked up. What could possibly go wrong? Just mix up the vaccines. They're considering mixing COVID-19 vaccines. I'm not a doctor, man, and that sounds pretty shitty. You're just gonna mix them up. So when that comes here, and it will, because everything that goes there comes here. When that comes here, just be on the lookout for the ads. I'm looking forward to those hybrid vaxes. You know it's coming. Hey everybody, it's like Avengers Assemble. Now Pfizer and Moderna give you their super vax. I'm gonna come up with some kinky name for it, and then everybody's gonna have to get the super dose. If you got the standalone vax, well, they're gonna get around to admitting around that time that it's more like 70%, maybe 50% effective. But if you get the super vax, the ones that's been mixed up real good, your efficacy goes up. And instead of getting like 3 shots or 4 shots or 5 shots or whatever the count is at the time from your standard Pfizers and Modernas and whatnot, instead of getting all of those, you could settle down for like 2 of the super vax. And then later on, they're going to have a sequel to that and have Super Vax Part 2 and Part 3 and whatever. They're just going to mix them up. So that's where it's all headed. Once they get around to admitting that this stuff isn't as effective as they claim, this is where it goes. Just mix them up. But on to the last of them. The weirdest of them. Sci-fi dystopian shit on steroids. The Pentagon have unveiled, not even this isn't a rumor or some we're hoping to do this someday. No, it's there. And let's not kid ourselves, it's been there all along. The Pentagon has a microchip that's going to sense COVID in your body. Pentagon scientists have invented a microchip that once inserted under the skin will detect if the patient develops COVID-19. they have also developed a revolutionary filter that can remove the virus from the patient's blood through a dialysis machine. It's a microchip. They're gonna give people a microchip. A book of revelations bursting to life. Stick this in your arm, stick this in your forehead, stick this somewhere in your body. Pretty soon they're gonna have vaccine compliance and vaccine passports, so you can't go anywhere without your vaccine pass. And to make it even more convenient, why don't we just give you this chip? It's just a chip. This is a big deal. You already took the vaccine. What's the big deal with the chip? So just get the chip, dude. Get the fucking chip. DARPA. DARPA. You know, the ones who make killer robots? Those guys. They're getting in on this. Retired Colonel Matt Hepburn, an Army infectious disease physician leading DARPA's response to the pandemic, showed off the technology. Gonna have to go and dig up some videos on that, I suppose, but my goodness, it's here. And it's been here. They were just waiting for the moment to roll it out. And they were keen to say here, okay, check this out. The microchip, which does not track movements. How the fuck do you know? How the fuck do you know? What do you know? Oh, no, it's conspiracy to say that this microchip is going to track your movement until, like, you know, April of 2022, when it's going to be common knowledge that the microchip tracks movements. It's like back then it was insane to talk about a COVID passport in April of 2020. Insane. You were a quack, you were a kook, you were a willy nonsense person. You were a communist, Russia-loving shitbag. Disinformation spreader if you talked about vaccine passports this time last year. And now look at how far we've come. So when they tell you that this chip is not going to track movements, stop being such a conspiracy theorist, you piece of shit. Just be aware. None of us are surprised. None of us are shocked by this. It's happening just like we always knew it would happen. Just like they said it would happen, you know? They'd have banned you for talking about vax passports a year ago. Banned you. Now, here we are. So, microchips, normal headline in April 2021. Stick that under your skin, and it's gonna detect COVID. How is this microchip gonna detect COVID? Have they managed to isolate COVID? Show it to you on a microscope, say, here it is, and now here's a chip that's gonna help us find it? No, they haven't even isolated yet, last I checked. So, what this microchip is gonna do, fuck knows. What that vaccine is doing to people, fuck knows. But we're at the microchips now, people. And when the guys who shot Kennedy start getting involved with healthcare, only good things can happen. Only good. Wow. Oh, it's only April. It is only April. Alex Jones. Right again, man. Right again.